What's up, guys? It is Monday, June 22nd, and it's time for another edition of the NBA Tip-Off Show. We have a stacked house of panelists. Check it out. I mean, this is like Murderer's Row right here. Let's go around the horn really quick. Ski Prophet, Rob Vino, Tony Finn joining me. I think, is everyone in Vegas but me? Am I the only one in New York City?
Only one missing out.
Wow.
No, I'm in Philadelphia.
Okay, so we got two East Coasters, two West Coasters. And, I guess that's fitting. We do have Eastern Conference, Western Conference in the NBA. Before I go around the horn really quick and get everyone's thoughts over the last week, don't forget, WagerTalk.com, SportsMemo.com. That's where you can find all of our content. These guys constantly have picks, tons of specials. I know I'm going to have a 2 for Tuesday, a $2 Tuesday coming up tomorrow with some more golf. I'm 2-0 in my 5% golf plays. That's great. Ski, let's start with you, man. What's going on over the weekend? How'd you play Belmont? What's new? Talk to me, brother.
I've been taking it easy, just kind of getting a little break. And I played the Belmont Stakes, the 10th race. I cashed an exact on that one, so it's pretty good. I've just been taking it easy. I've been loving the crap tables before they take it away again.
I'm missing you at the craps table, man. The next time I go to Vegas, we're going to shoot some craps. Tony Finn making his NBA tip-off post-corona debut. Tony, It's great to see you again. Great to hear your voice again. What's new?
That's good to see you guys, be it virtually, and good to hear from you. And what's been going on, much like Ski, it's been a nice down period in many ways.
When the show, I mean, sometimes it's some information to share with the group here. Getting sent your way now.
Tony sources.
I really screwed this up some. There we go. Information. No, I have tried to talk myself into getting information and trying to get ahead of the curve in the NBA and MLB for that matter. Not so much NHL, but I decided that sometimes information overload is not served me well, and for the most part, these guys are going to pick up where they left off. So I felt like that might benefit me, or at least might benefit the clients. So information-wise, my main concern is who's going to play hard, who's not going to play hard, who's worried about free agency next year, getting hurt during this short period of time, who's not, who's motivated, who's not. Really, the basic questions that you guys all three have too.
Yeah, I think we're going to get into some very interesting and in-depth discussions because we did get some news over the last week. Rob, I want to bring you in, man. How was the weekend? I feel like the weekends are feeling a little more normal yesterday with the PGA going on late night and, obviously the ponies all weekend. So it feels like at least we got some action going on over the weekend now.
Yeah, for sure, Jared. Obviously the, horse racing I've always enjoyed, but I've never handicapped it. I really tip my hat to the guys who handicap horse racing 7 days a week with so many tracks across the country and so many races per day. I mean, I bitch about 300 college basketball teams, plus there's probably, 1,500 horses running every week. So
yeah,
those guys do a good job. But Triple Crown stuff really interests me. So I took an interest in the Belmont Stakes, like the result, as Ski did. That worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Some KBO baseball. I've learned a lot about that game over the past 5 weeks or so. And also to see full crowds, guys, rugby match is pretty wild. I know that the Australian rules football has maybe 20% capacity, but those rugby games are totally full. So hopefully we can get back to something like that.
Yeah, and if you want to get in on some more KBO, actually a perfect segue to the promo. We're going to have Dave Koken and Andrew McInnes doing their KBO show coming up right after this at 4 o'clock. So if you want to get in on some of that sweet KBO action that Rob Vino was talking about, we certainly have you covered there. All right, let's get into the topics of the day because obviously, we've advanced the week since the last show, so we do have some news to get to. Obviously, not a lot of scheduling to get to. We don't know what the schedules are going to look like. We don't know who's playing who on what day, so we don't have lines or picks really. But big picture, we do have some kind of foundational things to get to, and I want to start with the Pacers. And we started to hear over the weekend that it looks like Victor Oladipo is going to at least try to play. Pacers obviously a long shot in the East at 29-1. That's kind of where I saw him last. Depends on what book you shop. But I don't think this number is going to move too much off the Oladipo news, guys. I mean, I'll open it up to the floor. He's a very important player. They're obviously a better player without or with him than without him. But is that really an impact piece that's going to push Indiana to being a contender this year in this restart season?
You want to go, Ski?
Go for it, Rob.
Yeah, I would say he is, Jared. I mean, 100% of Victor Oladipo combined with now what we know to be 100% of Malcolm Brogdon, to me, forms a really nice backcourt that can match up with anybody in the Eastern Conference. They've got front court size and scoring ability. So at least from a starting unit perspective, Oladipo, to me, if he can go, and like you said, he's going to ramp it up and see if he can go. We'll find out further on his status. But we did learn that Justin Holiday, who's a key cog on that bench, probably won't go. So that hurts Indiana a little bit. You know, I know we're going to mention more injuries and what they might do to teams. But for me, Victor Oladipo would be a critical piece, not necessarily for the 8-game stretch, but for the playoffs themselves. If he's able to go and he's able to go, let's say, 35, 36 minutes per game, I think that would be really important to Indiana.
Ski, I think the thing to disseminate here for me is it seems like, unlike what we heard from the Wizards and David Bertans, he doesn't want to play because he's risking injury. Meanwhile, Oladipo wants to come back. What does that tell you about where the Pacers are mindset-wise and what they think they can accomplish in this restart?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, they have a very good squad, and adding Brogdon helped quite a bit. And I think Oladipo makes a world of difference. He's a great defender, a great scorer, and you put those two back there for the backcourt, Brogdon and Oladipo, it's kind of tough for the opposing backcourt. So I think the Pacers have it's one of their best teams that they've had in recent years, and probably their best shot to win, although I don't think that they will.
Tony, what are your thoughts, Pacers? I mean, I'm seeing 30-1 to win the East. I still think they're a year or two away, but obviously Oladipo makes them a much more dangerous team.
Anything can happen in this setup right now, in the outline and the way the NBA has it set up. I think defensively, Indiana was solid during the regular season. 27th, I think they were 27th ranked in offensive efficiency, and adjusted a little bit better than that, but not much. And let's be honest, if you want to look at WAR, the replacement value of Oladipo, I think if he can average 23, 25 points a game, that makes him a contender. If they can defend like they did and improve on that 27th ranking, you have to be wary of them if you're not on them.
Rob, I think big picture, the Eastern Conference is, I don't want to say the more up for grabs conference, but there's definitely more balance in that conference than I say the West. Does that piece of news make a 29-1, a 30-1 long shot just to win the East way more palatable? Whereas maybe in the West, if a big player came back, you still wouldn't think they have enough to get over the top of the Lakers and Clippers. By the way, lots of news on those two teams in a few minutes. But I think the East, to Tony's point, it does seem a little more wide open, where I would be willing to maybe take a sprinkle on a 30-1.
I agree. We got into it a little bit last Monday, Jared, when we talked about these guys. I actually had a season over-under win ticket on Indiana this season because I was high on that particular squad with the addition of Brogdon. I'll tell you, real quick here, just a side note, if they do match up with Miami in the 4-5, we often talk about that Russell Westbrook, Patrick Beverly matchup where they just flat out hate each other and go head to head when those two teams play. We're going to get one here, right? Because TJ Warren and Jimmy Butler have started their own feud of sorts.
Yes.
He gets under people's skin, huh? He's becoming the new Embiid of the league now, right?
Warren, guys, was a great offensive addition for this team.
Yeah.
Went unheralded, under the radar for a long, long time here, but TJ Warren's capable of 30+ on any night. So I would say, to your question, Jared, yeah, it does make that 29-1, or if you can get even more palatable in this particular conference.
Ski, let's go out west, man, because I think the Western Conference is just as fascinating, especially with some of the news we're hearing over the weekend. Lou Williams of the Clippers, who is arguably the third most important player on that team behind Kawhi and PG, is 50-50 on whether he's going to play. The social unrest and the protests, he wants to get involved, and rightfully so. He should be able to. And on the other side of that, the other side of town, or I guess in the same building, the Lakers have two key players, Avery Bradley, who's a key three-point shooter, and Dwight Howard, who's a big rotational piece of the Lakers team, in similar situations. How do you handicap these LA teams knowing they might not have 100% of their roster fully invested in the season, or do you think when we get closer, these guys are going to buy in?
I do think when we get closer that they will buy in, and you would have to handicap it kind of like on a game-by-game or just wait to the playoff series-by-series type of deal. But the Clippers, if Lou Will is not in, they don't have a shot.
Yeah.
The Clippers' biggest problem, in my opinion, I said before, was chemistry. And Lou Will is one of the guys who has the chemistry with everybody. He's one of the guys you want in the squad. So if he's not there, I don't think they really have a shot at all. And as far as the Lakers, I think the same, though. The players will eventually come together and play closer we get. But let's say, for instance, if the Lakers are playing a smaller team, I mean, they have plenty of big men already. It will hurt because Dwight has brought a lot of energy to the team, but it all will depend on the matchup.
Tony, Lakers right now looks like they're just under 3-1. Clippers, it's like 320, 330, 340, somewhere in that range, depending on where you shop. That's to win the NBA title. The West is kind of in the same boat, 160, 190, and they're both about 30, 40, 50 cents apart. Not much separating these two teams. Where do you stack up Lakers Clippers as we get into this restart?
Well, I guess it's as good a time as any to start disagreeing with Ski. There isn't a team. There is no team deeper.
It only took what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Yeah,
who had the under 10 minutes? You win.
There's no team deeper than the Clippers. None, bar none. Since Paul George returned full time for the Clippers, and there's always been this big question about those three, their big three having the chemistry. But the truth is this: since Paul George returned, their net rating is second defensively, second offensively under Doc Rivers. I trust Doc Rivers above and beyond the Lakers coaching staff as a whole. I think he's done a great job with load management. This team's going to be healthy. There will be no load management. And this is the one team. The Clippers are the one team that can lose a player, lose one of their big three, lose a key member of their starting five, and I think still be the contender for the championship, especially in the Staples Center. There's not going to be any home field. There's no home court advantage per se. To make, in a nutshell, here's the deal. I like both the Lakers and the Clippers. We've talked about this all season long. I thought the Lakers could win when they wanted to, but in this scenario, it's hard for me to play any of those odds, those short numbers. I think this is the year that if you're going to step out, the value rests in teams like Toronto, the Bucks, maybe Philadelphia, those kind of things. That's really, if you're looking at futures, that's where I would lean.
Rob, I'll let you have the last word here on this LA debate. I think Lou Williams is I think he's the longest tenured, or if not one of the longest tenured players on that Clippers roster. He obviously important, sixth man of the year type of player. If he doesn't play, do the Clippers have any chance of overcoming that kind of loss?
It's interesting, Jared, because I think if you just, we know that coaches narrow down their rotations for the playoffs. So if you're going to look at a strict 8-man rotation for the Lakers, a strict 8-man rotation for the Clippers, offensively, the Clippers have the edge with Lou Williams in the game for sure. They go 8 deep because the other two guys that are coming off the bench have the ability to score. Landry Shamet all of a sudden is a great 3-point shooter, and Montrezl Harrell, we know what he does offensively and defensively. For the Lakers, to see 3 coming off the bench that have offensive capabilities is hard. Most of those guys are size, defense type people. Kyle Kuzma can score. But aside from that, Caldwell Pope, do you trust him? And Markieff Morris, can you get enough minutes at that position? I'm not sure. If Dwight Howard doesn't play, do you want to see that much more of JaVale McGee? I'm not sure. He doesn't bring a lot of points to the game. So without Lou Williams, I think it evens things up. I kind of give the Clippers the edge with a full roster. But without Lou Williams, I wouldn't say no chance, but I say it lessens their chance because I think at that point, LA might become, with their size and defense, might become the better team.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I mean, obviously the talent at the top of the West is those two, and then everyone else. And to Tony's point, this is the year for variance. I think if we're doing a baseball show and talking about a 60-game season, we'd be talking about similar things in terms of the best players, the best teams over 162 tend to rise to the top. Over 60, it could have an outlier. And I think in the East, there's a better chance of an outlier, but there certainly is the chance of an outlier in the West, or at least not the Clippers in the finals if Lou Williams does, in fact, not play. We will update that story week to week as we know it. I want to get to some more longer shots because I think some of these teams, to Tony's point, could be very intriguing. And I think we can throw away one of these teams right now out of the gate, and that's the Washington Wizards. We heard today Bertans will not play. Of course, coming off the 2 ACL injuries, the Wizards are done. They're not winning a title. But they were still a pretty long shot just to make the playoffs, which I thought was an intriguing bet if you were kind of fading the Nets. So, Ski, I'll start with you. If you were rehabbing an injury, put yourself in Bertans' shoes. If you were trying to stay healthy, entering a contract year, what's your motivation for playing, especially if you're on a team like the Wizards where you know you're not going to win a title? Is Bertans making the right decision? And obviously, how do you cap the rest of this Wizards team considering one of their best players is not even going to make the trip?
100% the right decision. I mean, what are they really even playing for? They have a very small chance to make the playoffs, unless it's like maybe a contract type of deal. But even then, like just to ramp up and for 8 games coming off injury is pretty tough. You see Kevin Durant is not taking any part playing, so I think he's making 100% the right chance, and Wizards don't have any shot to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree, Tony. I think that's kind of where I'm leaning here, Tony. I mean, if you take these teams and you pull them out of this little bubble, what is Bertans really revving up for? But I'll throw you a flip side one. Donovan Mitchell's entering a contract year 2, and the Jazz are not dead. They're very much in it. If you're Donovan Mitchell, or if you're handicapping the Utah Jazz, which I know you love to do, please walk me inside of his brain and what he's going through right now heading into his walk year.
Without Bogdanovich, I'd give Utah a very little chance. So I just don't think they can compete. I mean, even with Gobert, I think they will be outsized and outmuscled. And again, I really like Utah. Look what they did. You know, I think what they do in the last. Did they win 19-21 during stretch there after really struggling?
Yeah, they had a really good.
Right, they had a nice little run, right, guys? I don't. This is a team that I worry a lot about. If I got money on any season numbers or futures on them, without Bogdanovich, that's again. I'll go back to the Clippers. I think they can lose any of their starting 5 and still compete. Without Bogdanovich, I don't think the Jazz can.
Yeah, the Jazz were 13-11 on December 9th, and then on January 14th, they were 28-12.
Yeah.
So a 15-1 run. And then it went after that a couple more, 4 out of 5. So it was like 19 out of 21. You're right, 19 out of 21. Spot on, Tony. Nailed the number there. The Jazz had a really good stretch there. And then obviously, Rob, they were almost the face of this coronavirus pause with Gobert. And what does that chemistry look like? And again, we're talking about a Utah Jazz team. If memory serves me correctly, they're the 3rd or the 4th seed right now in the West. The 4th seed in the West. They're a game and a half back of the 3. Yeah. And, you know, they're, as most would consider, a contender in the Western Conference, especially if the Clippers don't have Lou Williams. And again, I know everyone's kind of playing for that second spot in the Western Conference Finals with the Lakers, and that's a fair statement. But chemistry-wise, and we talked about this last week, some of these teams are just going to be a mess, you would think, when we pick things back up.
Well, there's no question, and it starts. I mean, that was the original chemistry problem, right? After when all this coronavirus started, was between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, and they hugged it out. And we've heard a lot of reports from that team, including head coach Quinn Snyder, that everybody's fine. Everybody's on the same page. So the Bogdanovich injury that Tony pointed out becomes their biggest hurdle at this point in time. You know, I think originally, Jared, you began here with talking about guys and do they risk it on a 1-year contract? Do they risk it?
Or if they're going into
injury?
their free agent year,
Yeah, you know, and there's so many different guys here and so many different personalities. Because in the beginning, Damian Lillard really wasn't going to play this out.
Yeah.
But you bring back Zach Collins and you bring back Yusuf Nurkic, and all of a sudden, hey, let's play this thing out because I got my bigs back and me and CJ can handle the backcourt, and you know you've got Trevor Ariza, and all of a sudden they're fully whole again. So everybody's a little bit different. I know that back to the Washington Wizards. Hey, there was a question about a week and a half ago whether or not John Wall would try. Right, and John Wall said, "I'm not trying."
Yeah, I think the Wizards are. I think today they were. I was considering maybe betting a no on the Nets to make the playoffs at like 15-1 because I thought maybe they would be that team that's like, KD's not playing, Kyrie's making all this noise, our coach is fired. They might be that team that just totally, lost it. But now I think you have to throw the Wizards in that category as well. And one of those teams has to make the playoffs between the Wizards and the Nets.
Yeah, and certainly, I mean, the Wizards start so far back to begin with. They would almost have to go undefeated and, play a 500 team. So all these guys, as we go on day by day, we'll treat them individually. But to your point, there's so many circumstances across the league. Do we want to go? Do we not want to go? You mentioned Victor Oladipo. He's going to push. Doesn't have to push, but he's going to push. So some guys really value that championship trophy at the end of the rainbow here. We'll see. I think Ski's point was the best to begin with. Once we get closer to actual games, you're going to see a lot of guys wanting to be at practice and wanting to be involved with the team.
It's FOMO, Ski. Just like when you tweeted out the other day that you were shooting craps, the first thing I thought about was, I want to go shoot craps with Ski. Like it didn't take a rocket scientist to break down what was going on in my brain. I saw one of my buddies shooting craps at a casino in Vegas. Me, as a craps connoisseur, wants to go shoot craps. These guys are going to see their buddies balling it up in the bubble, and they're going to want to go ball with them. And I think it's that crowdsourcing way of thinking that might get us a little bit more juice in their, attitude towards playing once we get closer. It maybe the attitude is just to wait and see. But if you feel like you have a good handicap on which one of these teams are going to be really motivated early, you're going to get a jump on the number.
Very true. And I'm sorry. I got to give Tony a little bit of a hard time. I got to jump back a little bit. But the Clippers are the deepest team in the NBA. But, I mean, they just threw all these guys together. They're just signing guys left and right just because, they picked up Joakim Noah. They picked up Morris. They picked up Reggie Jackson. Who cares?
Joakim Noah is on the longest 10-day contract in the history of the NBA. It started sometime in March, and it's still – I think we're still going through the motions of whether or not he's going to be on the team long term. All right, let's have a little fun because let's be real, we could use some fun in our lives. I was looking through some of the giant proposal restart plan, and I was going through some of the more interesting, I would call them perks of this bubble. And one of the ones that really stood out to me, besides the anonymous hotline, which we'll get to in a minute, was these guys are going to get full VIP meals, like 24/7 concierge service. They're going to get entertainment or some kind of entertainers that get brought on. I hope it's all PG rated stuff. And also, they're going to get private screenings of like all these Marvel movies that haven't even come out yet. I don't know if you guys are Marvel fans like me, but these guys are going to get to watch Black Widow before me. And I'm a little jealous of that. I don't know, any of you guys Marvel fans out there? We're gonna get some DeAndre Jordan periscoping Black Widow spoilers to us during the bubble. Like, this is crazy. You guys are gonna get like 5-star amenities down here. I know it sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, if it was me, I would be loving it. But I mean, maybe if you have a family or something, it might be a little different. But you can send me out there to the bubble. That's true.
And that's a good point. And I guess I'll open this up to two of the, I don't want to age any of you guys, but Ski and I think are slightly younger than Rob and Tony. And I made this point last week why I like the Grizzlies, because they're the youngest team in the NBA, and you would think less baggage, less family, less kids, less, wife at home. So is there a point to be made, Tony, for a team like the Grizzlies at 23, median age of 23 and a half, to be that team that has no distractions? They just go to Orlando and they go play ball.
Well, you could, I guess. It depends on what side of the fence you're sitting on in this. I've kind of thrown listen, Miami's pretty good first half during this season. They're pretty good. Very surprised. However, 3 of their 5 starters have less than 3 years experience, and it depends on what side of the fence you guys are on. Are you on that? Can 2 guys lead a team through these playoffs, or at least deep into these playoffs, as opposed to the chemistry? Is basketball gonna be bad when it gets back? I mean, truly, is it? It's not going to be where it was when we left, because they were deep into a season. Is it going to be bad? And if it's going to be bad, then Katie bar the door. Find your 1 or 2 guys that has experience, can carry a team, can create his own shot and score, and you better be on their back. So, do you like youth? No distractions, as you said, Jared. Do you like that? Because if you do, there's some long shots you can bet on. For me, I'm going to toss Miami. I'm tossing Miami because with the reduced rotation, as you suggested, I'm out. I'm out with them. I'm out.
And that's an interesting point, Rob. I actually, that's why we have Tony on the show, because he's wiser than me when it comes to being able to see the other side of this. My handicap was young Grizzlies team, hungry team, good talent, very talented team. Can't deny that. but the youth was going to be my early handicap, and maybe not to win the title, but in these early stage games where it's the first couple of games up, I thought the youth might be what is the edge there, where they're not thinking about their kid at home. They're not thinking about all the stuff they left behind. I do agree with Tony. Once we get to the playoffs, especially the later rounds, I think it won't matter. It's experience. These guys are so dialed in during the playoffs anyways. They don't even know if they have wife or kids at home half the time. But maybe the other side of that is, these guys just don't understand how to play basketball, in a different kind of scenario. What's your take on the youth versus experience debate here?
Well, if I was gonna use youth as part of the handicap, I think I'd go immediately to New Orleans.
Okay.
Because I think if I add youth to their assets that they currently have, which I would consider to be hunger to make the playoff position, and the roster that they have, and the former place that some of these guys come from, which is the LA Lakers, which is a winning organization, I think that I would probably lean towards New Orleans in that. You can get odds on whether a team will make which team will make the 8th and final Western Conference playoff spot, right? I think New Orleans sits somewhere around 3-1 right now. Obviously, they have to come from behind to do so. But if I was going to consider youth, I think, the Pelicans are loaded with it, and I think they're loaded with motivated youth. What kind of chance, Jared, do you think Phil Jackson would have had keeping Dennis Rodman in this bubble with Marvel movies as enticement? I mean,
well, that's where the entertainment comes in, Rob. We don't know. They were very vague on this list when they said they're bringing in outside entertainment to keep these guys occupied. It was vague.
And they're going to have to because, NBA nightlife.
Could be something else.
Yeah, I'm telling you, because NBA nightlife is a real thing.
Oh, 100%.
And during daily handicaps we go through this. If a team has to play in Los Angeles on back-to-back nights, well, don't bet them the second night because that previous night was probably a long one for them. So, it will be interesting. You're right. The vagueness of it, and I'm sure it's vague for a reason. They can't honestly tell everybody what they'll be given to these guys, but it'll be interesting. I still think that in the end, the lure of the trophy and the pursuit of the trophy certainly holds all the cards over anything else for teams that are in the upper echelon right now. The younger teams, the teams that are far behind, the longer shots that are coming off the pace. Maybe Dallas is a youthful team, right, with a good leader in Luka. We'll see how his health is. That could all be interesting, or you could make interesting points for all of that.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see Luka. From all accounts, he's not in great shape, so we'll see what that means. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's not. Sometimes the more bulk can help a little bit of longevity. All right, let's get into which I think this is my favorite little nuance of this bubble, and that's this 1-900 hotline that these guys can call if they spot violations. And my handicap early, guys, is that Chris Paul is going to be dialing this thing more than he dials home. If you guys remember, Chris Paul is the same guy that tattled, I guess I'm going to call it a tattle, on, I forget which player, maybe it was Deion Jordan, someone on the T-Wolves.
Players.
Yeah, not tucking his shirt in at the free throw line. He got a technical foul called against the T-Wolves this year. So Chris Paul has a knack for just figuring out what you're doing wrong and finding out a way to kind of call attention to it. Who's going to be the guy who calls this hotline the most? Is it going to be fun stuff? Is it going to be really bad stuff? I want to get your guys' take on this hotline because I think it's fascinating, and I think Chris Paul is going to be burning the edges, getting his name on this list.
That was the very nice way to call Chris Paul a snitch. But yeah, I think if anybody's going to call the hotline, it will be him. And I don't think we'll see too many people telling on everybody else because nobody wants to really be there following the rules anyway.
Yeah.
And one point I wanted to make on the Rob and Tony thing.
Okay.
New Orleans, they do have a little bit of both youth and experience because, like Rob said, they were supposed to go to the playoffs last year, so they want to prove themselves since they've been shipped off. And secondly, Memphis is not a great shooting team, and they play a lot of good defensive teams, a lot of good perimeter defending teams coming up on the 8-game schedule, and I think that's where they struggle.
All right, Tony, I'll give you the floor here on the hotline. If you were going to call and snitch on one of these guys, Who do you think it's going to be? What do you think the violation will be? Is it going to be something as simple as I saw James Harden wearing sandals in the pool, or is it going to be something real serious?
No, I have a cyanide pill in my tooth that if I ever get captured, there will be no tattling. I will bite on the cyanide.
Love it.
And I will take the bullet. And yeah, if you want, if you're planning on doing any robberies or anything that might be illegal, you certainly do not want to be doing it with Chris Paul, because you will be thrown under the bus at some point in time. You are done. And if that's fun talk, right? And for everyone listening, if you hear that Jared and Ski are at the craps tables, you can join me, because I will be on the don't.
That's terrible. That's terrible, Tony. That's terrible.
I would expect nothing less, Tony.
I'll give you as long as you play at another table, you're fine. But if you did that at our table, I would be really upset.
I'm a parlay, three. Don't parlaying out a little small number. I figure. Well, we got Jared, we got Ski, we got maybe it's Lawrence Fresman. Those three in line. It's almost an automatic lock.
You've never seen me roll craps, Tony. I might have the sweet roll. I was there. I was doing it with Drew Martin when I came out in February. We made a little money.
Listen, I don't like the fact that they get to take the dice anytime they want to. Now they can stop. Listen, if you touch my dice when I'm throwing, and you try to switch dice on me,
they do that.
There's some hell. There's gonna be. I'm gonna make a scene. No doubt about it. I'm an expert crap player. Am I wrong, Ski? Touch my dice. My dice after I've made 7 straight numbers.
Let's go out, Tony. Let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun, baby. Let's have some fun with some dice. Rob, I don't know if you're a dice guy. I hope you're not a snitch either. I don't take you as the snitching type. What's your take on this hotline? And is it? I mean, I hope it's all in good fun. It sounds like it's there just as a precaution. God forbid it has any effect on any handicap. Someone gets suspended. Something. I don't think it's going to get to that point, right, Rob? This is just kind of for show.
Yeah, as a native East Coast Italian, we don't snitch, but we probably have snitches who tell us things. I would think, Jared, that phone's not going to ring. Let's face it. But it's fun to play. What if it does? And what if you're in the Western Conference Finals? It's tied 3-3. Game 7's coming. Who's the most likely person to report a violation on the other team and would not care about the repercussions?
First ball.
And it would have to be Patrick Beverly. Patrick Beverly.
That's
He's an
another
agitator.
one. That's another one.
He will get under your skin no matter what it takes to get under your skin. So I think, if I was going to throw some money on some odds for somebody to do it in a particular situation, I think 3-3 tie in a 7-game series, Pat Beverly spots Anthony Davis doing something he shouldn't be. For sure, that phone may ring.
Patrick Beverly's one I didn't think of. All right, let's get some final thoughts before we wrap up for the day. Ski, what's going on the rest of the week, man?
We shall see. I mean, I'm gonna just continue to pick up the news. I'm excited. I don't know about you guys. I know you guys aren't big WNBA guys, but WNBA is starting before NBA, so I'm looking forward to that.
I mean, especially when it comes to client stuff, do you have any picks that you think you're gonna line up early, or what's your strategy with WNBA getting back into it?
I will make a future selection, but just one on who to win. It's been a lot of changes, a lot of players moving around because they've had more money this year than previous years. So I'm just going to put it together, and I'll have some picks and all of that good stuff.
Good stuff. So follow Ski. WNBA picks coming up next couple weeks. Tony, what's going on the next couple weeks, man? Anything brewing over there in Casa de Fin?
Yes, it's time to. It's been kind of a tough for me to kind of get back into.
Sure.
In my schedule, because I just stayed away from it. I stayed away from the computer. I stayed away from news, sporting news, and just did things that many that know me would be surprised. But I've done my reading, and I've already picked. Listen, I hate to say this. I know that there's going to be a few that are going to, maybe throw up a little bit in the back of their mouth when they hear this, but I make a little few. I thought the money on Philly, as far as the future goes. If you're gonna bet somebody,
I bet it. I got it on Boost on it.
Okay,
I got it 9-1 to 14-1.
Yeah, if you're gonna pick a shot and you're gonna get value, it's not going to come from the West because I think we're going to see the Clippers, the Lakers, and those two teams really come out, and you're getting no value. If you're going to get value, you pick a team you think that could upset those two teams, one of those two teams, and I think Philly. Albeit, I don't think there's any home court edge, or I don't think you're a visitor.
Really, in my road.
That's right. In my opinion, road isn't about the crowd. These guys, like you said, the NBA, all that stuff disappears when they got the ball in their hand. It's about travel. There's no travel.
Nope, they're in their own bubble.
If Simmons is healthy, this Philadelphia team, under these circumstances,
we did hear Simmons was healthy too, Tony. That was my handicap. Actually, I got, I've got my little notes here for the show, and I'm keeping a running action of any futures odds, any futures picks, so we can keep track of stuff. And the only one I have right now, besides the one I told Ski earlier too, I got a couple of nice odds boosts. I got the Lakers to win the title at 350, which you're not going to get a better number than that. And then the Sixers to win the East, East, not even to win the title, just to win the East at 14-1. I thought that number for the talent and for Simmons being healthy. And again, all we know is what we're hearing. We haven't seen Simmons yet, but we're hearing from Brett Brown that he's healthy. And we talked about it last week with Simmons moving maybe to the 4 and Shake Milton coming to the 1. It would change their defensive lineup a little bit to where they'd be a much tougher team to score on. So value-wise, I'm totally with you, Tony. I think the Sixers 14-1 is a great spot, and we're looking forward to seeing your picks over the next few weeks as we get ramped up. All right, Rob, last word here. Picks coming up this week. What are you looking at?
Yeah, we've been quiet with selections, Jared, in hopes that MLB and NBA would come back. But where we haven't been quiet is in the early dive into college football every Tuesday, tomorrow included. You can catch the what we like to refer to as the best damn college football show going with myself, Ralph Michaels, who's an absolute statistical genius, and Drew Martin as host. So the three of us have been at this for about 2 months right now. Tomorrow we'll be doing some Big 12 outlooks. College football is fascinating right now with the coronavirus reports. Kids need to get healthy for 14 days and whatnot, but it doesn't seem as if there's going to be a halt to this season. So we're going ahead full steam, and we'll look into college football again tomorrow. Join us. I think it's 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific every Tuesday. Ralph Michaels, myself, and Drew Martin with the College Football Show.
Great stuff, and it definitely, there's picks, there's analysis, but we've got every sport covered: KBO, ponies, WNBA, college football, and these guys certainly do a great job. Sportsmemo.com, WagerTalk.com, check them all out. Tony Finn, Ski Profit, Rob Vino, those are my guys. I'm Jared Smith. This is the NBA Tip-Off Show. Another week down, just a few more weeks to go till we hopefully have some actual games to talk about, but we will see you again next Monday at 3 p.m. Coming up next, KBO Show, Dave Koken, Andrew McKinnis, 4 o'clock Eastern. They'll have your Korean baseball picks and whatever other nonsense they want to talk about coming up in about 20 minutes. So thanks for joining us here from WagerTalk.com. Have a good week, guys.